Dadaism, usually called Dada, was an art movement born of the European avant-garde, term used to define the advanced guard, used to represent the experimental, radical, and unorthodox work related to art. This being the basis for the creation of Dada, since it often pushed the boundaries of the acceptable and the norm of the status quo. The Dada movement is often related to the original anti-art established by Marcel Duchamp during the pre-World War around 1914. This movement often used to express disagreement with the collective idea of the separation between art and life. These anti-art works may voice the idea of whether art itself exists or not, poking fun at it and releasing the ready-made items just placed in a gallery. This statement was a huge disrespect in the art world, and also a well-received lesson to the artists of the time by the audience that started to open and realize that art itself was poking fun at them, presenting mediocre pieces of art and selling them as if they were masterpieces. We can see several expressions in the actual time, referencing the most recent by the secret but world-known Banksy. During an auction of one of his key pieces at the moment, it was sold by around $1.4 million. It started to self-destruct by a shredder installed in the portrait of the piece. In first intention, poking fun at what you really pay for, just a canvas with a picture worthless as it seems. But this statement backfired as the piece grew in value for this action, proving the point of Marcel Duchamp. Art is not what the artists say, it's what the crowd and the voyeurs pay for.
According to the Tate art page, Duchamp was born in Blainville, Normandy. He was the son of a notary and the younger brother of the painter Jacques Villon and the cubist sculptor Raymond Duchamp Villon. Duchamp did few paintings until 1912. He took influence from his contemporaries, starting with some Cézanne's techniques from post-impressionism. Later, he would be creating a personal style of cubism using earthy colors and visceral forms, concluding with a depiction of the futurist movement. Although he didn't paint numerous portraits, he had a huge impact on the 20th century art. The Metropolitan Museum of Art page mentions that by World War I, Duchamp rejected the work of many artists because of the way they intended to please the eyes. Instead, he wanted to put art in the service of the mind. That is why he is known to be pioneer in Dadaism. As he aborted from painting, he began presenting objects as art, selecting already made gadgets, labeling them with titles and the designation of art illustrations. These were called ready-mades. Duchamp's most influential development eluded the notion that art must be beautiful, building a new way in which people could appreciate art itself. This would be known as conceptual art.
The fountain, made by Marcel Duchamp in 1917. The dimensions are 61 by 36 by 48 centimeters. The original one is extravagant. This fountain is like with a urinary, and this is one of the most representative art works of Duchamp because of this moment of Dadaism. Dadaism broke the art, and with this he broke all the art stereotypes before the Dadaism, and because of that is one of the most important works of Dadaism and of course of Marcel Duchamp. Known as the first work of Duchamp. There are two versions. One made in 1930, that is located in Paris, and the other one in 1916, located in New York. The first one, a bicycle wheel over stairs of wood, and the other one is the same one, but over a bank wood. This creation of Duchamp doesn't have any purpose. He said it a lot of times. He made it, but don't have any purpose, and because of that, represent like the beginning of his work and one of the most representative all the work of Marcel Duchamp.
Duchamp made his friend Arensberg suppose that Duchamp was out of inspiration, so he decided to buy him a ticket to Paris from New York, believing that he could return with new ideas from this French environment so he could create new artworks in New York. When Duchamp returned from Paris, he gave his friend a unique artwork, his Air de Paris, a glass ampule which he bought from a French pharmacist. This ampule was filled with French air, making a relation with the French environment. So he basically gave him the French air of inspiration. Also called the Bright Strip Bear by binoculars even, it's a 9 feet tall Duchamp artwork. Consider it as a major artwork of this artist. Call it major because of the dimension of the artwork. The large glass is a work of art to be looked both at and through. Although Duchamp called the glass a hilarious picture, he took it seriously enough to devote 8 years to its intricate execution. As a 27-year-old newcomer to New York, in 1915 he began to work on this masterpiece, having first conceived of it 3 years earlier while sojourning in Munich. Each element of the glass is the result of meticulous studies, calculations, and experiments. Accordingly, Duchamp prepared a voluminous body of notes that address the narrative described by the work's full title. In 1934, he published 94 of these notes in the Green Box, which suggests possible readings of the imagery of the glass and document in painstaking detail the complex interactions and erotic tension between the enigmatic bride in the upper panel and 9 uniform binoculars below.
Polaroid, created in 1914 by Marcel Duchamp, is one of the characteristics works of Duchamp, and he put it at the term like ready-made because it's a term utilized for describe a collection of objects ordinary and manufactured at not common associated in art. There are objects common, pillows, one over one, and he made the final work. There are different versions of wood and of plastic. They are a different version of ball rack.
Comparison with Man Ray. Man Ray and Duchamp were really close friends. Man Ray's use of objects and experimentation with languages comes from Duchamp. Ready-mades are very present in his works of art as Duchamp's. Some of their works are the result of their collaboration, such as the Bright Striped Bear by her Bachelors, even, in which Man Ray was asked to record it by Duchamp, and he also placed the lighting in such a way that the glass became flaky, nearly lunar. It can be seen surrealist undertones before the movement even started, and he is very well known by his use of radiograms, with different layers and photography. Comparison with Andy Warhol. They both presented provocative portraits to the viewers by taking images from popular culture to raise issues of identity and portray that artists are still grappling with today. They both use ready-mades. Among their shared interests and themes are optical effect experiments, language and puns, pseudonyms, sexuality, identity, and role-playing, money, fame, and death.